Afternoon. You don't look tired. You look hungry. Thank you, Program Director, Mr. Ngogo. Fuze, Mashia Mahle, engathi azoshumayela. So I stand to be corrected, but I'm told in the speaking circles, fortunately, that if you are closing the conference, dot.
You're the man.
So I'm not sure whether the committee considered that, but I feel very important that I'm the one closing the conference. Thank you to the committee. So, first and foremost, I think the speaker that just presented before me, thank you so much for quite an inspirational presentation, one of a kind, well researched, poised, and I think disruptive, thought leading, innovative. Should I continue? Thank you so much for that. I think that we owe it to ourselves as South Africans, zooming into where we are as financial leaders, to actually take ourselves seriously. The job that we do it cannot be left to mediocre, cut and paste, what's the other word? Just a run off the mill kind of approach. And what I saw just presented now, I think it's world class. And I think I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, just give a round of applause again. Thank you. Now, I have an easy task, but unenviable. The topic that I was given to speak on is effective leadership amidst a financial crisis. And when I got this invitation, I thought to myself, what a proper, well-constructed topic. Because if you mention crisis and leadership all in one sentence, you have it made. And therefore, as an opening statement, I'd like to say to you, please look at me. Please look at me. I know I'm not lookable. Please look at me. I'd like to start by saying that if we were to have a situation where there is no longer crisis, I think you would lose your job. Now, the second statement might offend you a bit, so prepare yourself. Here it goes. If you are looking for a place that has no crisis, in other words, you're at a space in your life where you don't like crisis, you're trying to avoid, in fact, you are even thinking about resigning from your job right now because of the crisis that seems to be ongoing, by the way. I think you are in a wrong job. Because the job that you have right now is you're actually called to lead. And I'm going to try and define leadership just now. So let's keep that. Right. I can't see the screen, so it's on what's here. Okay, great stuff. Right. So I think leadership is balanced by two things. The conviction and the passion, and Joe, you spoke about this. The conviction and the passion in the fact that you are necessary for the current situation. You were born at the right time. You were sent by the Creator to solve a problem that the Creator knew would exist in your generation. Now, you either see yourself like that, as a CFO, or you see yourself as just an employee in a management position, earning a nice salary. And I was surprised no one raised their hands when you were asking those three questions. I thought CFOs are paid very well. Or has something changed? Can I ask the question a different way? Or maybe CFOs are no longer incentivized by pay. Maybe you guys are now incentivized by something else. So I think when we define leadership, therefore, at its core, it has to do with these two balancing forces. As a human being, if you don't have these two balancing forces, you cannot lead effectively. You cannot be effective in your leadership. There has got to be a burning conviction and a passion, right? In the fact that I am relevant, I am required, I am needed. Now the last statement I'm going to make before I go in is this one. And I would like you to participate on this one. I want you to look at the person next to you and say, I am not a gate crasher in government finance. Come on, say it. Right? Can you say it again? Just say it again to the next person. I am not a gate crasher in government finance. Now, I hope it gives you a sense of ownership. Because really, this is what is required from you as a leader in the finances of the municipality. You really need to feel that you own that space. So Joey, you've done much of the work for me, so I'm now just recapping from what you. I think somebody stole my presentation and sent it to you on a lighter note. If you cannot identify with the crisis that is going on, in other words, if you cannot identify with the need that exists in this generation, you have no business in leadership. Because leaders are the people or individuals who actually thrive on problems. They thrive on crises. They want to solve. They want to think about what is it that is different that we can do in this case? And I think I agree with the previous speaker as well. You cannot be innovative before you are effective. You've got to know how to drive fast before you can spin a car. Let me stop there for a while. You cannot be a spin doctor before you're a technocrat. You've got to know your staff as a technocrat, know it very well, before you can actually say, okay, the law says this, but actually we could also do this, because there's a provision in the law that says, in such circumstances we can actually do this. But you're not in a position to do that unless you know the law first. So I always say that efficiency comes after effectiveness. You've got to be effective first, then you can start trimming the fat, or becoming creative, becoming innovative, and so on. So credibility, therefore, is part of leadership. In fact, I would say it's the integral part of leadership. You cannot lead people who do not believe in you. I think the person sitting next to you doesn't believe that. Just nudge them a bit. Just nudge them. You can't lead without credibility. You can try it, but it doesn't work. I'm not going to mention names, but we've had a leader that tried it for almost 9.5 years. Trying to lead without what? Credibility. Whether you are suspected or not, is immaterial. Once you've lost credibility, you've got to work on that credibility before you attempt to lead. So credibility, therefore, is the cement, the foundation of leadership. Once that foundation gives way, you can't lead. Can I tell you why? Because of this word. I'll skip all this. Because of this word. Can you read it out? Can you say it? Influence. I can't hear you. Influence. Influence. Well, I'm saying it in English. Influence. I know you said it in vernac, you know. Influence, you know. Influence. Yeah. And that word on the screen defines what leadership is all about. Joey, you mentioned in your presentation that you know, when you appear as a CFO, it can mean two things. It could be, oh God, here she is again. Or it could be, oh God, she's here. And that speaks to influence. And you cannot buy influence. Hello? You cannot? Influence does not matter, does not depend on the kind of car you drive. You can have the best sport. I usually visit municipalities, I see there's designated parking. And when you come in, you drive into a municipality, the first thing the security will tell you, no, you can't park here, sir. You can't park here. CFO. So parking is designated. Are you leading? Are you trying to lead? Are you leading already? If we were to measure on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of whether we are leading or not, what number would that be for you? Would it be a 6? Would it be an 8? Is it a 3? Or maybe you've never even thought about it. Therefore, influence is the first order of business for the leader. You want to lead in any situation, in any role, you have got to find yourself being able to influence that space. Now, you know, growing up was very interesting because I think our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, they had a different idea about influence, right? I remember when I finished matric and I went to tertiary, I now began to have ideas of my own, different from my father. And whenever I would raise these ideas, his answer would always be, I'm your father. Do you know what he meant by that? He meant keep your opinions to yourself. You know, I'm your father. That was his classic, you know. But there was something that he used to do as well. When he chose to engage with you, I was blown away. You know, when he chose to actually say, yeah, no, tell me your opinions. I want to hear them. Even if I differ with them, but let me hear them. And he would allow you to fully engage with him. I was blown away. I never thought such stuff could actually come out of him. Because I always thought of him as a dinosaur. Maybe some of us are. But I'm not there. Now, influence doesn't mean that people that follow you agree with you. It doesn't mean that. Can I tell you what influence means? Influence means even if they disagree with you, but they respect you. Not because it's not based on the fact that you share the same ideas. It means that you have the credibility. And they respect the fact that you haven't seen it, you haven't seen the things their way at this point in time. You know, one of my mentors said something powerful. His name is Seven Master Money. He said something powerful. He said, you know, when you differ with me, I have to consider the fact that you are a professional in your own right, you are intelligent in your own right, you come with a certain number of experience behind you, and. So therefore, when you see things differently from me, there has to be something that I'm missing. And therefore, I will respect you even if you disagree with me. CFOs, can I ask you, has anyone lost their job in your municipality, in your finance department, because they differ with you? I'm hearing a few no's from 3 people. How many CFOs are here, Mr. Tom?
Over 50.
Have you orchestrated someone being pushed out of the municipality simply because they differ with you? And therefore, influence for me is character. Influence for me is character, and you cannot divorce character from, you cannot divorce yourself from your character. Your character is you. At your core, when we strip you of everything, what remains is your character. And what is character? Character is your tested behavior. And I wish, Joey, we could have technocrats who have high qualification, high intellect, strength of thinking, breadth of thinking, who also have tested character. Tested character, because then when they have tested character, they actually bring into the organization something that is gold. And gold cannot be gold unless it has gone through the fire. The fire of trials, the fire of people who don't believe in it, the fire of everything else that stands against that particular vision. Leadership, therefore, that will be effective amidst a crisis. I want to suggest this afternoon that this is a leadership that comes from an internal construct, not from policies and procedures, not from an appointed position, because that is external, but it's the leadership that ensues from the inner. This is a cliche and everyone has quoted it before, but I'm going to say it anyway. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You can still say no to your staff, to politicians, to administrators, to the community leaders, community members, and so on. You can still say no, but still care. It becomes a problem when someone in power says, I don't care. And you can see they mean it. When they say, I don't care, they mean there is nothing that you can do about it. I say it, in fact, because I care. I'm refusing this, not based on any policy or any, Joey, you used the term viewpoint. It's not based on any perspective. It's actually based on the fact that I've got power right now, and you don't. What kind of CFO should you be? I think you should be the kind of leader that is actually respected, because even if you say no, but it comes from a certain point, or another perspective, but at an emotional and relational level, you actually care. I prefer friends who say no to me because they care about me. I prefer those kinds of people. But if the attitude is different, and this is the second point on the slide, if the attitude is different, the attitude is not actually inspirational. To inspire means to enthuse and to create a certain fire within someone, such that they even begin to do things for you willingly, without you having to follow after them. So I've got something controversial to say, therefore. I think you nailed it, Joey. I think as a CFO, your job cannot be the majority of what's required in terms of systems and procedures and decisions that need to be made. I think the greater responsibility for you is actually inspiring the team that works with you. If there is one thing you should be an expert on, is inspiring others. Because when you inspire others, they want to do things willingly for you. When I boil down leadership to one thing, and one thing only, I think leadership is when you are not in the space, but you inspire the space. That's what I think leadership is. If you have to be in a meeting, you're not an inspirational leader. If a meeting can happen without you, but it is influenced by you because of how you do things, then you are a true leader. And therefore, I think that crisis brings an opportunity or presents an opportunity to the leader, because leaders feed off managing at the edge of chaos. When you were presenting yesterday, said you as a leader, you thrive at the edge of chaos. You manage chaos. You become a specialist at managing that which cannot even be defined by policy. And I think as a leader, you also find ways in the policy of creating programs and perspectives that begin to address problems that didn't exist when the policy was written. Can I say it? CFOs, can I say it? Yes. Don't be loyal to policy, be loyal to problem solving. And I don't mean break the law. Let me just say that just to be safe. This problem that we are facing now did not exist when the policy was written. If your work is not risky, you're not a leader. Can I say this one as well? It must sound bad. Might not sound nice. But can I say it anyway? Yes. If your life physically as a CFO is not threatened, you're not a leader. You know, it might sound as if I'm being sensational, but I'm not. Actually, I know of CFOs who are being threatened right now with physical danger, because they are saying no or saying yes when some people want them to say no. So you've got to come to a decision where you ask yourself one serious question. Am I here to lead and create new pathways? Or am I here just to maintain the pathways that are already there? And I've got to cover this point before I conclude. I've got to cover this point. In my previous presentations, I used to use the lion, the symbol of a lion, for leadership. And 15 years after being in this field, fortunately, I am beginning to be skeptical about using the symbol of a lion. Because whilst I might understand the symbolism and the meaning of a lion when we talk about leadership, I'm afraid there are people who might misinterpret that symbolism. I think a leader should not be feared. I think people should not tremble when a leader appears. I think people should be inspired when a leader appears. I know you don't want me to say it, but I'm going to say it. Should I say it?
Yes.
I think an open door policy is underrated. There are CFOs who think they are God. You can't, listen, even if you go through the proper channels, you can't even have a 5-minute appointment with them. They can't even have coffee with you and chat in the kiosk of that municipality. What is your aim? What is your aim? Do you want to be feared? Do you think fear inspires confidence? Do you think it inspires credibility? I don't think so. On the other hand, I think people should be afraid of you because of what you stand for. So fear is necessary, it's just that it must not be instilled by you. Through threats and levers and we will have to deal with you because I don't think you are the right fit in this organization. We'll have to deal with you. As a CFO, you must never be heard as a leader saying such things. In fact, when we have to remind people that you are the boss here, something has gone wrong in your leadership. And therefore, I again say, at its core, leadership is about inspiration. You inspire people, they want to follow you. You don't threaten them. You don't use certain leverages to actually do what you want to do. You know, I once want to work with a CEO who used to believe that when you lead people, you must know everything about them, even their dirty little secrets, so that you can manipulate them. And 2 or 3 years into that kind of thinking with that CEO, talk about a CEO in this case, the organization became like a concentration camp. There was fear, there was distrust. If you leave, you have to lock your office. You know, you were worried. I even believe that the office that we were using at that time was banned. So I want to ask you, in the finance department, in the SCM department, in the what kind of culture are you breeding as a CFO? Do people look up to you or are they afraid of you? And lastly, I think that the mindset of the CFO should be crisis presents opportunity so that we can grow. So it's not just being excited about crisis for the sake of being excited about crisis, but exactly what you said, it's about the opportunity to grow. When a crisis hits you, when a problem hits you as a department, I think the CFO should say or should be excited about, this is an opportunity for us to grow. Can I go a step further and say, actually that growth must be documented. As CFO, you must be in the forefront of recording the learnings in your department, even the learnings for the municipality. Leadership, therefore, is not management. Management is about resources, X amount of resources over X amount of time for X amount of outcome or goal. Leadership, on the other hand, is about being creative in the space and making sure that you even maximize beyond the resources that have been given. It's a travesty. I think it's a travesty of justice when someone is hired, highly intelligent, with their qualification, but they cannot think for themselves. I want to flip that coin and say, do you inspire people to think, or you just want them to comply? Do you inspire thought? In fact, Peter Drucker talks about in his book, the management executive or the executive, he talks about the fact that any decision that needs to be made, there must be strife. There must be a point where ideas converge. Because the word decision actually comes from the word scission, which means to cut. So a shouting meeting is actually a good thing. A robust meeting is something good. It's not something to get depressed about. It's actually a good thing. As long as the shouting is for finding the right solution, not just the solution, but the right one for the situation. I think it should scare you to be a leader, because it is not what you think it is. And I think that you are called to lead because you are the right person. Do not question that you are not the right person. You are the right person for where you are right now. The only thing that is left is for you to decide to become a leader. The question I have for you though is, are you willing to suffer for it? Do you know why we've got the state capture inquiry right now? Can I tell you the reason? I'm going to say it. Can I tell you why we've got the state capture right now going on? And you know how much they're spending on it? Can I tell you why? Because someone was not willing to suffer back then and stand for what they believe. Because if you stand for what you believe, they will fire you. They will take the car. West Bank will take the car. Standard Bank is here, so I'm not going to say Standard Bank. ABSA will take the house. I'm sure Standard Bank doesn't do that. They will block the credit card. Should I continue? So when you think about all those things, you tend to say, this is not for me. The biggest problem today we have in South Africa is that there was only one Mandela. All of us that follow after Mandela don't want to suffer. We love Mandela, but we love the benefits. We don't like the suffering. So would you stand, Joey, you mentioned something powerful. You said as CFOs or as finance managers, we are the custodians of the law. But the question I'm asking you is, are you willing to stand for the right, even if it means you must suffer for it? And if you don't want to suffer, who must suffer? I can tell you who's suffering now. It's the taxpayers, it's the poorest of the poor, the money that is spent now on lawyers. Exorbitant amounts of money spent on the lawyers now on this inquiry and that inquiry and that inquiry. I was even surprised that this inquiry is not even a court of law. It's not binding in any way. I was like, why are we spending so much if it's not binding? Really? Did someone manufacture state capture so that they can then come decide and collect? I have to ask those questions. But I'm saying the reason why we've got all these things because we as individuals are now not willing to suffer. What made Mandela Mandela was the suffering. Leadership, therefore, is sacrifice. Leadership is sacrifice. And we will never achieve what we want to achieve unless we are willing to suffer for it. Some of us resign and go to another municipality which seems better. Some of us resign and go to a parastatal. Some of us resign and go to a government department. But I want to challenge you. When you resign, who must fix the problem? I know the idea of saying no to politicians scares the hell out of you. But we need people who are going to stand, even if the heavens fall. With those words, ladies and gentlemen, I'm suggesting, therefore, this afternoon that the only way to deal with the crisis, we need self-sacrificing leaders. Leaders who will not bend, but who will be as true to principle as the needle is to the pole. And if we can gain that awareness and actually act on it, we will become what is called servant leaders. Leaders who don't want to be served, but leaders who are there to serve. So leadership is therefore the combination of the two things, conviction and passion. I am convicted and I am passionate. Conviction is the reason why I wake up in the morning. Passion is the reason for me to die, because passion means suffering. I am willing to die for it. Are you? So in its DNA, leadership is about the way you live and the reason you would die for it. But you're probably thinking, no, Mr. Klabaza, you see me, I have a career. This is not a calling for me. Maybe that is the problem. It's not a calling for you. And maybe we must go back, we must reverse and check, why did you become an accountant? Maybe civil engineering was full. Okay, did I go there? Can I say that out loud? But in closing, I'm saying, whatever has happened in the past has happened. What decision are you going to take out of this conference? Will you actually decide to lead? And I'm saying to you, for you to lead, expect sacrifice, accept figuratively, hopefully, blood, expect tears, that one is definite, expect sweat, rejection. Can I say this one as well? It's a lonesome journey, this journey of leadership. It's a lonesome journey. Thank you.